And you speak Dutch, no?
No, we have a problem.
What do you mean?
Why do you think I invited Rabbi Stern? Rabbi, so you might have to just translate for the Gentiles.
First, I want to welcome.
Oh, you don't?
No, we're good. You can sit down. I just want to thank everyone for coming. I think this is going to be a really unique experience because everyone here is a Holocaust connoisseur, and you can ask him whatever you want. There's no question that's out of bounds or taboo, and he's always been honest and straightforward. So anything you want to ask, he's going to give you a straight answer. My sister's going to actually give you a quick synopsis of his life, because if he starts from scratch, we'll be here till Christmas or Hanukkah. So we're going to be here for 6 months. So my sister's going to give a quick synopsis, and then we can start the question and answer and ask him whatever you want. Okay?
Okay, so this is my father. He was born in Wieliczka, Poland. That's near Krakow. He had 2 parents, 3 older brothers, and an older sister. He was the youngest. And his father was a Hasidic man. After the war, they were a very, very unique family because his mother survived. She was 56 years old. 2 older brothers and his sister. And one brother was shot in Plaszow during the war, and his father died the day after liberation. So it was a very, very unique family. Wieliczka, where he comes from, had 500 Jewish families and 12,000 Polish families. And the way it worked in the small Shtetlach were the Jews were living in the middle, you probably know this, in the middle, and the non-Jews around the area. When my father was 13, the war broke out. He went to the concentration camps at 16, and at 19 he was liberated. He was liberated May 6, 1945. So from what I've done in my research, it was like, I think, the last day possible to be liberated. May 8th? Okay, so almost to the end. And he always talks about May 8th. He doesn't remember his birthday, but he remembers May 8th, the greatest day of his life. He always makes a note of that. After the war, he didn't know that anybody was alive. He thought he was all alone, and he went to a kibbutz in Italy, and he was going to be trained to go to Israel, to Palestine, and somebody told him that his mother is alive in Belgium. So he made the trip back to Belgium. He was reunited with his mother and his you didn't go to Belgium?
Later.
Germany. Okay.
That was a misprint.
Sorry.
It was a typo.
Okay, so let me just, okay, I have a couple of pictures that if you want to ask my father about them, you can. I just want to point out, look how cute he was. This is when he was 19 at the end of the war, and this is the prisoner's garb, and it actually came from this over here. My father will tell you what that was. I just want to also show you, most of you I'm sure are familiar with Schindler's List, and Amon Get was the commandant of it, and this was the house that he lived in.
Let me just, a lot of people may not be familiar. If you see Schindler's List,
Yes.
the first 40 minutes is the Plaszow camp.
Right, it takes place in the camps that he was in.
In Schindler's List?
No, he wasn't, but he was in that area, right. As a matter of fact, Wieliczka is so close, where he came from to Plaszow, that there's a road called Wieliczka Road that leads into it. That's how close it was.
Wow.
So just a very quick story. If you know from Schindler's List, there was a maid who worked in Schindler's house, and her name was Helena. And my father was told to bring papers up to Armin Get's house. And he went and he brought it, and he didn't know it was Helena. He knew it was somebody. A Jewish girl came and she said to him, "Run away, because as soon as Armin Get is going to see you, he's going to shoot you in the head." So he went and he dropped whatever he had and he ran down the block. So she basically saved his life. So I thought that was...
She was in the film, right?
She was in the film, right. And she's alive. If she's still living today, she'd be 87, and she lives in New Jersey. And the rest are just, pictures of the camps and my father's family, which is Leibestadt. This one?
Yeah.
Okay.
How did you get pictures?
Okay, this picture is the only picture we have of Leibish, my father's brother, that was shot. And how do we have it? Great question. Because this was not in Poland. This was sent to people who lived, where was it, Belgium? Some other country. Who had this picture?
this picture from Switzerland.
Switzerland, we sent to Switzerland, and they obviously, you know,
And the
This
picture in his
the
prison
older
suit?
brother of my father.
That was Feta Shul,
He
right?
was, yeah,
Right.
he was
so this is all the,
Belgium to
yeah, we're gonna
Switzerland.
pass it around, you can see. But this picture is the only picture they have of Leibish, because Leibish didn't survive. And the lady wants to know, Daddy, how you had this picture taken?
Very smart,
So
yeah.
tell them.
You know what?
No, you tell them.
You tell them, Daddy.
After the war, I was hungry and moved out from the camp. And somebody told me that it's a place, Badischow, the name, in Austria. This was not in the Alps, but this is in the mountains. It was not the bumps and the houses was good. And I come there, and the tourists, I went to the houses to bake for peace bread. They get me. There was stores, and one guy there in that store, he made me the finger. He called me. And I come near to him, and I asked, in German, I asked him, was wünschen Sie? What do you want? And he said to me, I'd like to make a picture for you. And in German. He said, what do you want? He wants to make a picture for me. Okay, make a picture. When you give me also pictures, what do you make? Make it. He make right way. They make right way. He gave me 7 pictures. So I got the pictures, and I sent to Poland. When I go to Poland, I sent my picture. So I got the pictures about how I look. And I got this.
When was that?
Yeah, how much after the war? Like after you
month after.
liberated?
Maybe a month.
And you were still wearing your uniform? A month
I
after?
got another one, another club.
They closed the
Yeah.
store, menswear.
It was nice.
What constitution, what was the
Culture.
Bogat.
They were
Mi
culture.
katają, szkadka dokument. Oboczka picture. Picture like a little.
Where were you
Yeah,
liberated
just
from?
give this now, it's the document.
Dus Penavoska, Damakan, picture.
After Plasha, they sent it to Matthaus, and then Jacobs.
Why don't you do also like a quick history of all the camps he was in?
Okay.
And you know, from the ghetto, and then they can ask questions.
As a document.
I just want to give like an overview of like all the camps he was in.
Okay, my brother Jay said that I should give a quick synopsis of the places he was, and I will be happy
Just
to
like
do
a very,
that.
very brief history, from
Absolutely.
39 to 45, but very quickly.
If I
Okay.
can just mention something, if I can just mention something, just quickly. Shelley, if you want to raise your hand. Shelley?
Yeah, hi.
That's you. Her father was one of the few Warsaw Ghetto survivors
Oh,
in
my.
the world, because most of them were gassed in Treblinka, and some of them were fighters, and they got out of the sewers. Her father was...
But he was in the same camps. He was in Plaszow,
Exactly, that's
and
why I
then
was
he
going
was
to
in
get.
Mauthausen.
He was
No
in- He was in
kidding.
the Warsaw Ghetto.
What was his last
He was in
name?
Mauthausen.
Grossman. He was from Kalisz. You know where Kalisz is?
Would you know that, Daddy?
Kalisz.
No, so he was in, her father almost mimicked the same Polish, and I met him, I had the honor of meeting him over Passover dinner. And he was in the Warsaw Ghetto, and I was reading a book at the time, this was like 12 years ago, and I was reading a book by Leon Uris, and it was called Miller 18. So I asked her father, I says, you know where Mile 18 is? So he gave me a whole half hour on the Warsaw Ghetto. And it was amazing, because I never spoke to anyone in the Warsaw Ghetto, because
Nobody
we all
survived.
know Warsaw Ghetto survives. And then her father went to Plaszow and Mauthausen, which is what my father did. So he had almost the exact same experience. My father was in the Krakow Ghetto, so almost the exact same
But
experience.
they didn't know each other.
They didn't know each other.
They didn't know each other. I went to Plaszow. I went
Yeah.
to Poland with my daughter when
I didn't
she
know.
graduated from seminary. I went on the trip. I was like one of the oldest people there. But I was in Plaszow. There's nothing left of it. It's
Right.
a big field with, it has 5 people across this, a huge, because they used to walk 5 people across.
Right.
When they walked to labor, to do the labor, they would walk 5 across, so they made this huge.
I think Amon Getz's house is still there.
It is.
The farmhouse
It's
is
in
still
the,
there.
it's in,
And
And
did
we
you
went
see-
to
did you
visit
see interview
Schindler,
with
but
the
my
daughter?
my
Yeah,
father
that's
wasn't
daughter.
on
That was-
Schindler's list
neither was
either.
mine.
Yeah.
But one thing my father, Armin Getz, liked my father. My father was also very young. He was liberated also at 19.
How old is he now?
Same age,
He's
He's not-
87.
Your
he's
father
no
was a little
longer
older
living.
than my father. How old would your father be if he was alive today?
He died
81.
12 years ago, 81. He would be 91.
He was older than my
87.
father.
Right,
My dad is 87 and a half.
right. But he was dark and
And a half.
he used to, well, he used to, Armin Getz used to call him the gypsy because he
Really?
looked like a gypsy. He was very dark.
Well, my father says if you looked at him, he would shoot you. So my father used to only see him from the side. So, he never-
So anyway, he had a very good experience with him because he once tried to get off of those lines. Does your father remember? I don't know if he hears me, that there were 5 across.
When they walked Daddy
His hearing is,
to
excellent.
work, they went 5 people across. Finniv mentioned Azai?
5, yes.
Yes.
So he tried to escape my father and then they caught him because they could always see how many people were
Right.
marching.
Wow.
And then when they were going to shoot him when they got back to the camp. But his friend ran and got Armin Getz, the person that...
And he
who
forgave
cursed
him?
He said, we're going to shoot the gypsy.
Wow.
And he came on his horse.
That's
and he
so
said,
unusual. Yeah, there's a picture of him on his horse there too.
Yeah, I'm not clear about who you're talking about. I'm sorry. I know your father, I got that, but
If you saw the
the
movie,
person who they
Schindler's List.
I saw it, but I have no...
There was a guy
memory.
shooting from a house?
Yeah,
From a
Amon Getz.
balcony?
Just shoot.
He was in a t-shirt, yeah.
What was that English
What was
actor's
his
name?
name?
What like that?
Ralph Fine.
Ralph Fiennes.
Ralph Fiennes.
Yes.
Remember Ralph Fiennes?
I remember...
He was the
Yeah,
head of
the guy.
Pashav, and he was a very nutty person.
Yeah.
Besides being bad, he
He
was
was not
like...
known.
He was the one who they went to get to save your father.
They went to get him.
Right.
Yeah, that's why it was so unusual, because he would usually
So
just
I
shoot
have one
him.
question. Is he friends on...
I'd like to focus
Is
on
he
your
friends on
father. I don't
Facebook?
want-
Is he friends on Facebook with Amon Getz?
This is not your comment.
Okay, sorry. Okay.
Also a difference between the Warsaw Ghetto and the Krakow Ghetto. The Krakow Ghetto was a very nice ghetto. The
A
Warsaw
nice
Ghetto
ghetto?
It was
No,
very
listen,
nice.
Listen to what Daddy says. It was a very, people were rich, they had enough to eat. The Warsaw Ghetto was poor,
Right.
it was a terrible
Overcrowded,
place.
yeah,
But it was a comparatively nice ghetto.
I didn't know that.
Daddy will tell
Okay,
you that.
hold on, hang on. Lila,
Do you want me to do that? Okay, so very quickly, he was 13 when the war broke out. They were in Vielichka and everybody panicked, so the whole town ran east. And they ran to different towns, Domrov, Tarnow, and then a month later they came back. They found out when they got to Vielichka that 32 men were shot, 32 Jewish men were shot. But they were very scared, but the mayor said, the mayor of the town, don't worry, everything will be okay, you can calm down. And things were calm till 42, and most of you know Hitler decided to do away with the Jews in the summer of 41. By 42, all the camps were set up, the death camps were set up, and in 1942, my father went to the camps. First he was in Ulag, then he was in Plashav, and then he went to what's called the Vielichka camp. They were going to build another concentration camp, and they sent him away to Mauthausen. He was in Mauthausen for 10 days, and he said, lucky him, because he wouldn't have survived. Mauthausen was really, they put you to work to death. And then he went to San Valentin, and then they went to Abenzay, and in Abenzay he was liberated.
Okay.
True? Okay, that's it
Okay, so now
basically.
people could
So
start
any
asking
questions, feel free.
So,
You call out, you have to raise your hand. Just call out, ask whatever you
Philip,
like.
Could you start from when you were 13 and you were taken to the concentration camp? Is that too painful for you to talk to us about?
You want to ask me, and I answer
he
you.
wants
A
a question.
specific question,
question.
something specific.
13, he was only in the ghetto. He was only put in the
When
camps
you,
at 16.
when you were taken away, were you with your family or you were taken by yourself?
That's a great question.
That's a good
It's a question. My father, actually I see, he was very smart man. He was very smart. I got 3 brothers, they was working in camps, not far from our town. And he said to my brother, the second one, was Yossel, he said to him, you have to take school, take him to work. I was too young, they don't want to take me to to work. And bring him there, he has to be in a camp where they work. Because he don't like when they send away, this they call deportation. They don't say where they send the people. They have to pay money, they sell jewelry, they have to give a contribution to give for the German author, to the Nazis, how we say, to the SS. And he say they send away so many people, tens of thousands, and we don't have for them, they don't write nothing. He becomes so white, so with the war here. He don't say what he think, but he don't like it. This, and nobody comes back, nobody runs. And he say he went before the deportation. He went to hiding, and my mother also went to hiding. She paid for the hiding by Christian family.
So this was outside of the ghetto?
This was nothing yet. There was in our town.
In town before the ghetto, okay.
Before the ghetto. And I was my brother bring me on the Baustelle day was I walking. They gave me a mechanic, I got a job to feed pigs. And this was not legume, not Baustelle. Later they take away the job from me because they take away the pigs. I don't get feed them. So as my father I can say that I'm here, he's so not to go with the deportations. He don't believe. He feels there's something is not right. And so I go around. They don't take me to war because I was too young. Very little English, a small boy. And then I find a way not to tell everything, and I come to the Krakow ghetto. And I come to the Krakow ghetto, he gave me addresses, and I found a rabbi's,
rabbi's wife.
A lady from a rabbi, but she was in our town. And I come to her, and she helped me a little. She gave me the keys on the roof there to sleep. And I was there.
So hold on, so you went from being a village and you went actually into the ghetto?
Yeah,
you have to sneak into the ghetto, or were you able to just go into
He
the
was
ghetto?
able to get in because Rebbitzin Frankel gave him a place to stay. It was arranged.
Oh, but he
She
asked
gave him the
another
attic,
question.
so
He
he
asked-
stayed
I
there.
think that was unusual to actually go into a ghetto as a part
Yes, it was
of
the safest place for him because the concentration camp, he was too young to be legal.
Right.
And otherwise he's just
See,
rolling
I always
around.
thought, and I read a lot of Holocaust books, I always thought that you only got transported from ghettos, you didn't get transported from villages, and I guess I'm wrong.
I come
No,
not naked
village
to
was
the ghetto,
actually
I don't
taken
come
the
naked.
whole-
I didn't know that.
The whole thing,
See, I
and
didn't
as a
know
matter of
that.
fact, Israel has the yard site. They looked it up, and it's a special day where they were all sent to be gassed. That the whole
So you didn't have to be in the ghettos to get transported, you
No.
could be transported from, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I know a lot about the Holocaust.
And I was in Krakow ghetto, I was around 7-8 months. It was
You were only
good for me.
13 at the time?
Was
13 or 14?
I come in the ghetto, I was 42. I was 16.
And you worked in the orphanage in the Krakow?
What?
You worked with, in the orphanage, you told me.
I was working.
That was in the Krakow ghetto?
I just want to tell one other story.
I got a job.
I just want to tell one other story.
They gave me a job.
I just want to tell you a story because this story that I'm about to tell actually will articulate how young he was. And I remember when Itcher was still alive at a wedding, he told the story. He was 13 at the time. He was kicked out of his house, and it was in Plaszow or somewhere else. And he's
Remember
remember that? And he told Itcher he wants to go home. He didn't understand.
Because
what's
I
going on.
don't got to
He's
eat.
13.
Yeah.
So Itcher screamed at him, "There is no home. It's over and done with." And he started crying. So you don't, when you realize about the Holocaust, he's a 13-year-old kid, he's bar mitzvah age. And it had such an impact that his whole life is over. And that's when he realized it.
Were there a lot of people in the camps that were your age, or you think you were one of the youngest?
That's a good question.
That's a great question.
That's a good question.
I was working mostly with the younger boys.
Was there anybody
Yeah,
younger in the camp?
It was about,
Yeah, he was 8 years old, but that's an exception. He's both involved,
He
but that's
was.
an exception.
He started off.
He hit
but,
it.
but the selection, when they made the selection, it was,
He was 8 years old, a Russian, Russian
make
guy.
the selection come for them, and they stopped me. And I go with a boy before 90 years old, so small girl.
This is a great story. Listen to the story. This is a great story.
His father, he speaks so good German. He must be in the Polish army, but he knows how to talk. He saluted and he say, this is my Bursche, this is my young boy. He can arbeiten for the Deutsche Rüstung. Maybe you understand what it is.
About his
For the German army, for the... He can work something for the... They can do something for them.
You know the story?
No.
And he looking down and up and down, let them out. And then I come. And I come and I stay straight by him. He asked me, how old you are? I say 17 years old. Wo arbeitest du? Where I work. And I say, in Papiergemeinschaft. And he stay looking down. He let me out.
Where's this?
Plastic.
That was one of your closest calls, right? I just want to tell one other to the people who are not ultra.
You asked me about that.
Yep. Well, let me just mention one other thing about people who are not ultra familiar with the Holocaust. He probably had 10, 12, 15 instances where he was almost dead. And it was just luck or fate that saved him from being dead. Is that correct?
What?
You had a lot of close, can you translate in Yiddish? Ask him how many close calls he had about being dead.
Your father.
You don't speak Yiddish?
It's okay. Yiddish is better. Yiddish is better. We understand a lot, but we don't speak it so well.
Sie zijn gewend, bald bij de top. Wieveel moe hebben we?
4 van over.
4 or 5 times, right? What was the what was the top 3, right? What was
No, well, my question is, and it's a difficult question, two questions. What was the lowest point?
That's what I was going to ask.
I know, because we're twins. What was the lowest point in the camps, the ärgest Zeit, the worst, and also the best, but not other than the liberation? So what was the best time in the camp, before 45, before you were liberated? The best memory? And what was
There is no
I
best
got good.
memory.
and what was the lowest
The
point?
3 lowest points.
No, one lowest.
No, 3.
Okay, 2. That's my final line.
And I wasn't yet though. Was
Versteht was fragt? Die versteht was fragt?
And she's saying Yiddish.
Dat is gewend de ergste Zeit.
On the best side. On the
In de
best side.
beste Zeit.
Yeah, that's it. Just those 2
the
questions.
best I got in
And not liberation, before that, yeah.
before the liberation.
Yeah.
Ghetto. I got the best. And the time.
Why? This is the best time from 39 to 45.
I deal there with bread. And I got an address from my father to go to the baker. And he gave me to eat. And I say,
I remember that story.
That's in the Krakow ghetto.
Yeah. Can I just say one thing, if I may interrupt? This is a great story, because the Holocaust brings out the best and the worst. So he had a baker that helped him out because he was 13, and he thought he was an orphan. He didn't have a father. So he helped him out with bread, and he helped him, and he helped him out because he thought he was 13 and was on his own. Then his
he
father,
sold me. He sold
right?
me.
Then his father goes over and thanks him for helping out his son. And he got all angry. You have a father? I was going to help you then. And he got all pissed off, and he didn't help him anymore. So it shows you what a good heart he had. And he had good intentions.
And apparently my father had a lot of money in the ghetto. That's what he said. He was a very wealthy man in the ghetto when he was like 30.
Right, but in Borough Park, he wasn't that wealthy.
No, he had a lot of money. He didn't have real estate, but he had a lot of money.
He had a lot of money in the camps.
By the way, my father has a terrific sense of humor, by the way.
Where did he have the money from?
He sold bread in the ghetto. And he was a businessman.
He was a mouse.
Yeah, I have to
Okay.
add to that, he had a lot of money in the concentration camps. He was a teenager, and he sold illegally coffee to the workers, and he was stuffed with money. And he had a lot of money, and they took it away when he went to Mauthausen. But he had a lot
And
of
in
money.
Mauthausen, he lost
And
everything.
he got a
I was so it's
He got it at Starbucks. It was a Starbucks. It was a Starbucks in Plasha. He ordered venti, no Rico.
As a matter of fact, the one time the money came, they took them to Mauthausen, and they put them in these carts, and it was a very, very hot day, and there was no food, no water. Actually, they gave him meat that was very, very salty, there was no water, and he was very, very, very thirsty. And they stopped off, and there was like an orchard, they were selling apples, and he holds out what he said, my father says it was a lot of money, like $100 bill, or $200 bill, and he went to the guy that was standing, to the Hungarian guard, and he said, buy me a bag of apples, because I'm like really, and the guy took a look and got $200, he got him a bag of apples, and he shared it with all the people in the train, and he said because of that, he was able to
And other
survive.
people also that.
To survive the trip, because everyone was very, very thirsty.
Wow.
So his money came in handy, but then when they came to Mauthausen, they just took everything.
Okay, so the second part of the question is, what was the lowest, worst moment from 39
A
to
lot of
40?
the last
Worse.
days. I
Last
was,
3 days?
him say I was sure that
You're gonna die.
Because of no food?
it was,
That's
I
what
don't
she
know,
have.
maybe 3 days they
That's
don't
what she
give you
have-
nothing.
So you were starving towards the end?
Yes. One guy, I got a very good, close friend. And he knows from somebody, he was walking back, Bashuka. And he got in his handkerchief, he got a little sugar. He bring the guy, he opened I was on the floor, and he opened my mouth, he put me in a spoon.
So that you couldn't even move at that point?
And I hope that, please give me another one. Give
And
me
you couldn't-
another
you
one.
couldn't like-
And I become life. I become
How much
life.
did you weigh?
I don't got that scale.
Hang on, hold on, I don't know any of this. Hold on, this was after your camp was liberated?
Yeah.
Or before?
After.
After.
This when he gave me the sugar before the liberation.
Before.
At 2-3 days.
2-3 days.
That's when the nights
Hang
were
on,
already.
did you also know that your camp, listen, hold on, shh. Did you know that your camp was gonna be liberated at that time?
When I stay up this time, after I got the sugar, I can say, and I went out to see the liberators. And I come and tanks, they come, American tanks, they come in. And I say,
Which army? Which army?
No,
Which
America.
Which general liberated you? I know that, I just wanted to share with you.
What's the
And
answer?
Clark.
I don't think.
General Clark, right?
yeah, I think so, yeah.
General Clark was the one that liberated Rome?
Yes.
He's the one that liberated that.
Yeah. And I say the people they catch food about, I with the spoon in the mouth, they fall down.
How many people were in Avon's?
They say this time the camp was built for 8,000, but the liberation was 32,000.
How much?
32.
32,000, wow.
I got the one bed, it was 4 people.
So let me ask you another question, because, sorry to hog you up.
Other people should have.
Yeah, I know, I'll stop hogging the conversation.
What business was your father in your, before the war?
He buy farm a wheat, and he sell flowers to the bakeries. He make a living.
He said he was like, at least, he was middle class, right? Middle class.
He got
There were no classes.
They were not poor, no, but they weren't poor.
No, he was a wholesale.
Yeah, they weren't poor.
Did you go to school?
I went to school, yeah.
Yeah. That's how you do the baking.
One thing about my father's interesting, he's the youngest, and my grandmother wanted him to get a secular education. So she sent him to a Polish school with all the Poles, and he had a hard time there. They beat him up, different things, but he really wanted to learn, so he used to go there.
Does anyone have a question other than the family?
Yeah, I don't know if this person, does he have a number?
Yes, I
That's a
have
great
it.
story, that's also a very interesting
I
story.
got
That's a great
here,
story.
not a number, but here they make me KL on the left hand.
KL, if anybody doesn't know what that means,
Concentration
it's concentration line
They
in
make
German.
some, but when they catch me outside, they see that I am
Prisoner.
a prisoner, yeah.
Where did you
But I
get the
bite
KL?
this out.
Which camp?
I bite this out.
Hang on.
Bielska.
Bielska?
Okay, what he did was he sucked out
I
his...
bite this out because I feel I want to run away because I was in my town and I got where to go. The Russian army was not far. It was maybe 45, 50 kilometers from there, from Krakow. Was 44, maybe in June, July.
How'd you know the Russians were close by?
You can hear the
I was
88s.
there.
There was 88s
Yes.
going off. 88
mortars.
How does
Mortars.
he know that the 88 mortar comes from a Russian?
Because people talked and people in the military, they knew.
Later, they don't go there. They stay not far away. Lemberg they took, and then they go on Romania, Yugoslavia.
Did you have information in the camps of what was going on in the outside world?
Not too much of it, they know.
But you had something.
In Yiddish,
Yeah, you know what was going on.
Continue the story with how you got rid of your tattoo, it's very interesting.
I bite this out.
You put it on?
He sucked on it for like months and months.
I bite this
And
out.
he got all the ink out. He got all the ink out.
And you can't see it?
There's still a scar.
Is it really a scar?
Yeah, it's like white. Yeah, you can still see it.
Did you tell your children and your family about your experiences while they were growing up?
Yes, on day one.
Always.
Why don't you let him answer the question?
Sorry, day one.
Down boy.
Sorry.
Did you talk about your experience?
Were you open or did you not discuss it?
I don't talk too much because Pesach, we get 4 kashes. And he asked me, can ask me 100 kashes. I said,
Yes.
But not all of our parents talk to us about the war.
Right, that's unusual.
I didn't answer not too much.
You didn't
Really?
talk.
Not too much?
I believe
We
you.
humbly disagree.
I believe your children would say that you were extremely open about it, which is
wonderful.
okay.
Well, then maybe he thought that he could have talked about
Very,
war.
very much.
That's good.
I personally, I don't remember the first time I learned about the Holocaust because I was a very young child.
You have, for me, a
Yeah,
lot.
very young.
Tracy, you get everything.
Where did you meet your wife? Where did you,
Let's not talk about depressing things. I'm just joking.
No, I don't think it's a bad thing, but I was very young when I found out. I don't remember the first time I learned.
Did your
about
father talk about it, Shelley?
No.
it. No,
See?
most
Most
didn't.
people-
Very funny stuff.
Why did you feel, if I may, let's assume that let's assume for the fact that you're wrong and that you did talk about it a lot because you have 3 witnesses that you're wrong. So let's say that you talked about it a lot. What do you feel that you had a need to talk about it, but 8 out of 10 Holocaust survivors didn't have a
I'm not
need to
gonna
talk
know
about it? No, well, maybe he does.
it's a personality.
Maybe it's, I don't know if you wish they
7 out of 10? Absolutely. Most people do not talk about it.
You both love.
Most people don't talk about it.
Personality.
It's a legitimate question. If he doesn't know, then we'll say he doesn't know. That's all I'm asking.
There's definitely one down.
Okay, so that's what I say, advice
To the right.
Okay.
It's an interview.
On the right side.
Any other questions, anybody?
Okay, he doesn't know, right? That's what he's saying.
I asked where he met his wife.
Feels that
One second.
Oh, yeah, in America?
He didn't speak that much?
Speak too much.
Okay, all right, that answers my question, no problem. Okay, we'll let it
Oh,
go.
no.
Ellen,
They will visit.
wasn't aware of what he was doing.
I'm aware of
I
that.
think it's rough and I am Freud.
No, I'm absolutely aware of that. He's absolutely
Very
wrong.
good.
But you don't know that he's wrong.
He's answering how he met his wife.
You won't ask him. My mother, she was a survivor here, and she got a friend from the old home. And they find out that my mother is alive here. There's also Silberman, she's alive, she come to America. And they come to see my mother. My mother was living in New York. And my mother-in-law and 2 sisters, they come. to see my mother.
You were living with your mother?
And I was living then in this time with my mother. And they come, they see me also. So
Mm-hmm. Made a shit up.
I was the youngest, and she was the...
Toby, you know what happened? My father's sister Esther had a heart condition. So when the family suggested that my mother and my father have a marriage, they wanted to make sure that my mother had a good heart. So they suggested walking around Prospect Park to make sure, this is true, to make sure that my mother had a good heart. So they walked around Prospect Park and my father got winded. And not my mother.
What was your mother's maiden name?
Faust.
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 But she was American,
When did they
right?
come to America?
It's
No,
actually
actually, she
German.
was, right, she came as a young
When did they
child.
come to America?
Her parents ran away
She's
from
American.
Hitler,
She's
so they came to
She's
America
87 years old.
right before the war.
Like
and
multiple strokes.
She grew up there, so they missed the war, they were very lucky. They got sponsored and they grew up there.
Before the war, did you have a happy childhood?
What?
Before the war,
That's a
did you
great
have a
question.
happy childhood,
That's a great
Ellen?
question.
Shush. Did
I
you have a
got a
happy
good
childhood?
My home was good. My father, my mother was good. This was
Sie ist
no.
gewesen,
Ja.
eine listige Matze. Eine listige Matze, ist gewesen. Eine freiliche Matze bei
I went in the high.
Yeah.
No, your whole childhood, not just your home, but your school, your kids, everything.
You got to get the high. I got a good home. I got a good.
He's saying that he had a good home, and if you had a good
Yes.
home, that
Yeah.
means you had a good
Yeah,
life.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
want to add,
That's what he
he had a happy home, but he
He didn't
said that
have
the
cable.
Polish people were very anti-Semitic, and he always knew that.
Yes.
You know, he was very aware of that.
Nothing
You said that your father made wheat to sell to the bakers. You were a country boy or a city boy?
Not a city boy.
Not a city boy, huh?
A village.
But he was.
Felt the anti-Semitic.
He wasn't cosmopolitan.
Yeah, because they say that the city boys didn't survive at all, you know, and he
The only reason why
did.
I think the most, if you look at the Holocaust history, the ones who survived were the toughest, the Russians and the Poles. People from Denmark and France, they lasted too much. It was.
I mean, my father says that's what saved his life, that he, you know, he grew up on a farm, he knew how to work the farm.
It was a city where they really had industries, they were making,
They go down.
there were 11,000 people altogether.
So it wasn't much,
It was
wasn't it?
the salt, it was there, a salt mine.
Salt.
It was so fun. 800 people, they go down from 8 hours around. And they make good money. They buy, people make a living, good living, make a good living. Yeah.
Does anybody have a question?
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead. Sure.
How did you get in touch? You said you found out your mother was in Belgium.
Not in Belgium. She was in Regensburg, in Germany.
Ravensburg?
And I found out when from people, I ask people, and they say, I know that she is living, but I don't know where she is. I
People
come
from
back
your
from
town?
Italy and I look around her.
People from your town?
She was by people from Holland, from Adamshire. They
Oh,
took her
where she
in.
was. And then your brothers, how did
Yeah,
everyone
how about
find
you,
each other?
like-
How did you travel? It's not like you hopped on the airplane and flew over there. It took you, how did you get around? It took you, you know.
Were you shocked that when you found out that Tante Esther and Moshe Yossel and Itcha were alive? Were you shocked? Were you surprised?
I got a letter from my uncle that not to go to come to Belgium. This was my father's brother, the older.
He was living.
He said, come. He was in Switzerland.
Why
Come
didn't you
back.
stay
They
together?
later to Belgium. And he
No, they were dispersed.
I don't know where, I don't know. He's allowed. Yeah, I told me.
Well, how come you didn't stay together?
No, they all got dispersed to the camps.
No way I am
Through the war,
there.
the families didn't stay together. Because they dispersed them. Seven different camps.
Yeah, that was from when they were together, but initially, why didn't you stay together?
There's a lot of word of mouth too. Somebody traveled from one place to another, they would send.
Didn't the Red Cross
They had lists. I know, I had lists.
But actually,
recently
You know
told
what
me.
Eisenhower said? Eisenhower was very good. He said, do whatever you can. Not only that, photograph everyone, but also talk to
When he finally found his mother, so his mother was in very poor physical shape. She was all yellow. His mother was yellow, and he brought a doctor, and the doctor saw that she had gallstones, big gallstones, and
Make operation. He make
did an
operation.
operation. That
She got a lot stones.
it was against the liver, and therefore.
It pushed it.
And who did the operation?
German doctor.
And that's
Professor Wagner.
And how many years did she live afterwards? 30 years.
She
died
died
when
at
90
German.
years old. That was in Germany.
Yeah.
My father was 6 years in Germany waiting for visas to go to America, so he lived in Germany. for 6
So he
years.
paid off.
After the war, he lived for 6
Yes.
years.
So he paid off the Nazi doctor with chocolate and other stuff from America, right?
Right.
I give them, this was a professor from Berlin.
A professor from Berlin.
What, he came in the 50s to America?
Say that again?
He came in the 50s.
Yeah, he came in 52 to America.
What's that? Okay, one second. That one question from the
He was a
from
Nazi.
the CEO. Wait.
This is your
One second. Everything's good.
He was a Nazi, and he was hiding in the mountains.
Yeah.
He didn't want to be caught.
The doctor?
And this doctor, he was
He was a professor.
He himself, but
He
he
made
was,
the operation.
he was in the mountains.
So he came from the mountains to operate?
Well, that's where it was. It was in the mountains.
Yeah, Garmisch.
So he was in
The
hiding.
Alps.
He was in
In the
hiding.
Alps.
And you know what he said when he got all the gallstones
What?
out? He said it's kosher, right?
Yes, he come out, he said.
That's what he said.
This is kosher.
It's kosher.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So that, maybe you...
Yeah? It's not a joke. It's real.
Yes, very.
That's what I said.
That's what he said.
He said-
You don't think I know that? I know
I
it
thought
better
it
than
was
you.
your humor.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
German humor, right? German humor.
Yeah.
Was, that was my question. Was your experience ever so bad that you didn't want to live anymore and you actually thought of killing yourself?
That's a,
Sorry, that was my question, but Phyllis asked.
that's a great question.
Listen, everybody wants to live.
Right, I would say no.
Good
because
answer.
that's not personality.
Why don't you let him
I have a
Yeah.
question. Why
Did you see anyone,
That's
ask him if
my
he
question.
asked, if he saw anyone commit suicide?
That's a good question, too. That's on my list.
Rabbi Stern, ask him if he witnessed anyone commit
Yeah.
suicide.
Yeah.
Ihr habt doch all gesehen, Amos hat sich allein genommen das Leben.
Wait.
I like your Yiddish.
Yeah.
My father was
It's a little
here, living here. And 3 beds from him was a man, an older man, in the same age with my father. Oh, but he knows my father, and my father knows him. And he said to my father, Sheila, he don't want to live no more. And my father said, my father said,
You're not permitted to speak
you
like that.
don't make your suicide because it's not allowed. God give you life, and God, you got the power to take away the life. But don't do it. My father said to him, you mean it, so it is. Oh, but he don't believe it. And 3 days later, he got a tie, with that tie.
You saw it yourself?
He takes his life.
You saw it?
Ihr
I
habt
saw
gesehen.
dead, I am saying dead.
How many times did you see that throughout the war, yourself, personally?
I don't see they shot people.
No,
No,
suicide.
suicide.
Suicide. How many times did you see it?
I don't see special suicides.
No.
Just one time?
I don't remember, so.
I think people fought to survive.
A long
Yeah.
time.
Hat sich herabgeworfen bei Flaschele. Zurückgeworfen.
That's the bottom line.
Über den Berg. Ein Mensch hat sich allein
Hat
übergeworfen.
geschossen. Er versucht, es gibt Menschen, die MSS. Die Menschen sind schon abgebunden, leben zum selben Lebensstand. Ich kenne nicht also Menschen, die nur schwach sind.
Phyllis has a question.
Sie haben gesehen, dass es nicht geht. Das ist also gedient.
Does anybody still want to see this? Pass it to them.
I have a question.
Your question is, your father says that he didn't see weak people like that.
Right.
He only knew people who
What
had
they want to live.
strength. He didn't see weak people like that.
That's interesting, isn't it?
It's very well said.
Because he also saw pilots of people. He didn't see
Because they
people.
can schwache
Yeah,
Menschen.
he didn't see people from Denmark or Holland. That, Phyllis has a question for you.
Were you ever angry at God?
That's a good
That's a
question.
great question. Because you were religious in
Right,
camp.
you're a very religious
And
man.
you put on tefillin in camp. So, did you ever question God?
Alan.
Sie hat gefragt, sie ist ein...
Sie fragt, ich weiß,
That's a good
Gläubiges.
sie fragt, das sind die Katschen.
You get that, Rabbi Stern? Thank you.
What was the answer? What was the answer?
He didn't answer yet. He said it's a very good question. Is it, gives the kasha.
Give them the chance
Gives
to
him the
answer.
kasha.
I think that's the answer.
Wow.
Answer the
I
question.
can answer.
Try.
What's the question?
Was he ever
Was he ever angry?
Was his faith ever in
Right.
doubt?
And also, did you ever think about turning your back on God? And obviously, you're a very religious man. You're one of the most religious people that I know, like a really honest religious person. After the war, did you ever think about,
How about during the war?
or during the war?
I ask, why is happened? Can you ask me why? But nobody can answer why. Not too much people can answer this question.
Were you ever not religious during your whole life?
That's a good question, too.
Why?
Were you always religious, or were you at points
I
not
was
religious?
always
Always religious?
I like it little.
How did you put on tefillin?
Yes.
I'd like to hear that.
That's a great story.
Tell the tefillin story.
That's a great story.
When I-
That is the greatest story
Yes, I tell you.
of my father's legacy.
Okay, sure.
When I ran away from home to the camps to find a work and to live, I got my, when I got, my father, he had come to run and I'm dying, very religious, big people, and they don't got the twin. No, I got the twin. They
Well, they
make
were
so,
new.
I was sleeping on the higher in the third floor, they was on, and they make a
Stop.
als ze machen meer vinden, aan mitzvot vinden, in die Fußpassage. Schma is wat bis wir schon regeln.
That's it.
What?
Okay, one second. So he's saying that the rabbis in the camp said that you put on tefillin, but you say a very short, abbreviated because it was risky. And you only had the only pair of tefillin in camp. You the only one.
I don't know on the camp, but
Yes, yes.
shared it with everybody
Yes,
on the
yes.
lot.
only not mission, only with the people what they sleep with. You know,
Yeah, they
dying.
do
My
a lot.
father was very religious, and I was the last to learn the twins. It was winter time. It was winter. It was very cold, and I put on and I say to him, in the meantime I see a reflector from a light that come from the, you have it now, and I see, who knows this? I hide myself between the beds, don't see me. But he come, he saw me. He was like the head from the camp.
You remember his name or not?
Huh?
You remember his name?
No.
Das mit
And he say, he come and I cover with the rosh, with the head. He took out me from the twin and say, run out fast, out. And I ran out the Chiliada and I ran out. And I was walking ambushed. I remember the film of the way I was walking. I was sleeping here in this barack, and outside is the people when they went to work. It was around 400 people. And I ran out first and I come between the people. And I know he can only see me, he recognized me only in the head. Now the head I put in the packet and I say straight. And he say, 4 and 4, he come to me, look with them, he don't recognize me. And he say, the men what I took out is, die hebben zo das Gebet darunter genommen, soll raustreten. They took to go out. Nice. Now, it's a good thing, no too much they saw me.
Not many people knew the incident.
He got in the hand.